about gets energy efficient. You do. Those are your clients. You can make that piece happen. I was out there shooting in the dark. I was lucky to get enough to come together. But that's easy for you guys. You can do that in a flash. You can spend 15 minutes, you can get 3 phone calls in, and you can get this thing done. I spent a lot longer than that trying to do it. But I guess I'll just quickly say, so the energy efficiency rules that passed yesterday, there's more work ahead. There's no doubt. It's going to be answering just a couple of outstanding questions, ones that probably are not going to bother you too much one way or the other, although one of them is whether or not we truly will have statewide energy efficiency, or is it just going to be in the Entergy, CLECO, SWEPCO service territories? That's one question that can be decided in the next few weeks. But after that, it's going to be program design. That's going to directly affect how beneficial these incentives are for your business, depending on how they design that program. And Tillman has certainly touched on, and I hope you're taking from me the impression that you can have impact on policy matters just by your presence, but you also have expertise. You have knowledge that a commissioner does not have, that a utility representative does not have, that I do not have, and you can and should weigh in as a knowledge resource, as someone that you've been in the houses, you've been in the attics, you've been putting the insulation, and you've seen it. You can speak to those subjects in a way that can help shape policy and may help avoid an error, right? There could be a decision that's made that's just not sufficiently well informed. Tillman has consistently been a voice for having certifications, having demonstrable certifications that give the program credibility, that give your customers confidence, that ensure that work is being done up to a standard of quality that will stand the test of time. Because we also, despite the opportunities, you throw money at a great opportunity, if you don't have certifications in place and you've got a bunch of guys out there that are doing a crummy job, not only could you lose that policy, but it could slap back and make all of you look like you're not up to snuff. You're not the professionals that people want and need to count on. Anyways, the rules that we have in place now will be 2 years of program operations. It'll be roughly $20 to $30 million a year. Obviously, those are just the incentives, and the typical case is that those incentives will cover maybe 25 to 75% of the incremental cost. They're going to cover 25 to 75% of that higher level of efficiency. So, if you were to just take the standard, and then you would say, well, the higher level efficiency costs this much more, these incentives will cover a portion of that. But my point with that is to say that obviously there are a lot of additional private dollars that are flowing in. So if you've got $30 million of incentives, you've definitely got $100 million of business that's happening out of that. And this is going to be driving that, right? That there's marketing associated with it, there's visibility, there's just a lot more happening with it.
Is $230 million divvied up parish by parish or system by system? I mean, like by... It is utility jurisdiction by utility jurisdiction. Otherwise, it's a first come, first serve. Typically, as far as how the programs work. And they do include residential programs, they do include commercial programs, they do include to some limited extent industrial programs. Which is similar to what we have in New Orleans. I would think that what we've seen with Energy Smart is a fairly decent blueprint for what we will see at the state. But as you may already be aware of, or may not yet be aware of, we're now deep into the 3rd year on Energy Smart. The next 3 years of funding will be decided probably next month, how much that's going to be. I can spend more time than we're going to tonight talking just about that. But that's already looking at least a 60% budget increase over the next 3 years from the last 3 years. And there have been substantial changes to how that program operates, with a particular emphasis on whole house strategies. And these are the sorts of things, again, that you guys will end up either benefiting from or find it more challenging and frustrating. But the hope would be that by getting plugged in on those decisions
or before those decisions, that the programs will be set up for success for you too.
And will double dipping be in effect? I mean, can we, if there's ever living on Lake Spanish, can you take part in both Energy Smart?
No. And not because of any particular restriction, you know, kind of there's nothing that says thou shalt not participate in this program, but just that the reality is that it's tied to the address, and the Energy Smart program pertains to Orleans Parish specifically because New Orleans City Council has regulatory authority here. Public Service Commission has regulatory authority for basically all the rest of the state, but not Orleans Parish, also not the other municipal utilities, for what it's worth, Lafayette, for instance. So it just wouldn't even be, it wouldn't be possible, right? You know, either you're living in Orleans and so Energy Smart's your program, or you're, you know, you're living in Jefferson and whatever they call their program is going to be good, but they would be in Delaware. So, yeah.
Well, I was just wondering if you had any other questions out there?
So I would suggest that at least one of your priorities be the statewide energy efficiency rules. I might suggest as a second priority the New Orleans energy efficiency programs. Now, they're already in place, but there are definitely issues. The program could work better for you, and there will be opportunities to weigh in, but there'll definitely be more opportunities to weigh in if you is a group and not just you as one company.
Where's that? Just some generic information we can find more about it, just to kind of, I mean, is it on the Public Service Commission's website?
The rules themselves?
Exactly, just kind of what was
A
passed.
very, very good place to start would be the Alliance for Affordable Energy's blog. We've been putting a lot of good information. It's reasonably accessible in the sense that, you know, you're not going to get a paragraph, 2 paragraphs in and just, you know, be wading through legal mumbo jumbo. Some of the stuff can be that way sometimes, but it's also not so superficial as to, you know, leave you without really good information. So that address is well, it's very similar to our website's address, which is all for energy, all4energy.wordpress.com. So that's the blog, and then I would encourage you all, make sure to give my cards out. But I would just encourage you to contact me, and I'm going to try as efficiently as possible to just steer you to the place where you can get that information. But especially here on the front end, as you guys are getting engaged and working together and working on these policy issues, I imagine that you'll have questions, and I'll do my best to be as much a resource as possible. Over the course of time, I'm hoping that you all actually just sort of have internally the information resources at your disposal. In general, you can kind of steer each other to those. But, especially on the front end, I'm glad to do as much as I can to help you guys get ramped up. But I'll just finish by saying what Tillman has said. Your time is valuable. Nobody likes going to meetings just for the sake of going to meetings. But if you're meeting regularly and you're focusing on things that that you can have impact that matter to your business, this is time well spent. Time very, very well spent. You think about what it takes to get another client, or a couple more clients, 3 more clients. You do when these policies in place, you've got a lot more clients. It's worth the time. It's worth the time ahead of time. So I will move out of the front and go over to Tillman.
All right, thank you for that.
I've also, just because it's been a crazy push for me, and today is like my first day to sort of wind it down a little bit. I'd love to stay for just a little more conversation to the extent that sort of maybe kind of follow up on this piece would be helpful, and then I'd love to just get a report back on the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So now I want to hear from you guys, for the folks that just walked in, who have not yet introduced themselves. If you could introduce yourself, that would be great.
I got Brian Driscoll with Crescent Refrigeration, residential air conditioning.
I'm Brent Driscoll with Crescent Refrigeration. Celebrated my 51st year in business this past June.
Congratulations.
Can't get around.
Congratulations.
Floyd Simeon. I'm a commercial and residential contractor. My degree was in environmental science, so I've gotten into really advanced building practices. We've done clients always call up and complain that something's wrong with the house because their energy bills are like $50, $60 a month. So I also represent the New Orleans Home Builders Association. I'm on the executive council there. And more to like what you were saying, the legislation and things like that, I mean, we're heavily involved with that end statewide. So we're constantly watching stuff, and if there's things we can do to assist you guys. I'm also chairman of the New Orleans Green Council. So that's a sub-council at HBA, but any assistance we can offer as far as keeping an eye on legislation. Like you're saying, it's surprising what a few phone calls and emails can do and the impact. In New Orleans, the HBA represents about 1,000 people, so companies and people. So a lot of that, about 500 is suppliers, materials and goods, and about the other 500 is contractors. So we have a lot of strength in numbers. And then as far as the state of Louisiana goes, it's pretty big too. So.
Legislation and utility regulation are very high impact for your industry. Keep you quite busy, and from just sort of kind of what do I do and what do I not do, I don't do very much of the legislature, very little bit. I'm basically kind of playing a supportive role on that kind of thing. This last year, mine is the utility regulation, and not a whole lot of people that have the time to devote to that. So, you know, that's something that I think is kind of helpful to know.
I apologize for being late. I was at a city council meeting in Jefferson Parish. But something, I don't know how it ties into this with you guys, but the NOMAR, which is the real estate branch, have y'all mentioned that already? How they're,
No, we have not talked about
they're
that.
starting to change. They've been working on it for about 2 years to upgrade the MLS so that it reflects energy efficient housing here. So it's another good way to pass on to potential clients. It's like, hey, it's worth it not only because you'll be more comfortable and you get a lower energy bill, but when you go to sell it, it's going to be documented now. You know, that this house is different than the one next door. That makes a difference too.
So you're going to be able to put a HERS score on it. You're going to be able to talk about any energy efficiency improvements you make, Woodor, the plaster numbers, all of that sort of thing is going to be able to be put on a disclosure form. And it will be searchable in terms of, you know, people who are looking for energy efficient home right now, there's no way to search for it. But I don't know what the implementation looks like.
What's the data look like? Right?
They don't want everybody seeing it yet. I've looked at it, stuff, and it's basic. They're trying to keep it broad because they don't want to cater to any one group. They want to say like, oh, Leeds or HERS or like the HBA has their own thing, which is NHB Green. They just want to leave it so you can mark down that this house is energy rated, and then you can put the rating and the system used. And I guess over time, that'll start to shake out. You know, like in other areas, like you go to other cities and states, and they've been doing this for a long time, so they modeled it off other things. But, you know, like when I was in Utah, everything's HERS. You know, it just depends on what it shakes out to. But the fact that you can put a miles per gallon on here, and also just to be able to note that this house has foam insulation, this house has these good windows, you know, low E3 windows, and this house has just different things. And I guess from my point as a contractor and as, you know, with the Green Council stuff, I try to preach that all this stuff isn't just insulation and solar panels, it's also building it durably so that it doesn't end up in the landfill. You know, I mean, if you use hardy board side instead of vinyl side, you build something better to last, you know, and so that's part of it too. And you can list those type of things, like hardy board siding instead of vinyl, so like that. So that, all the kinks are not worked out, but it should be out in the next month or two. And as soon as we get it,
Oh, so
we send it to
they're
you.
looking at implementing
They're gonna be
it in
rolling
the
it out.
next month or two?
Before the end of the year, it's gonna roll.
This is a really big deal.
It's big for us because-
It's on the blueprint by the end of the year.
Jody Manali says they're gonna have it out by the end of the year, but
They wanted to have this implemented last year.
they've been working on it for 2 years, and they've been arguing back and forth. And what's happening is too, a lot of the guys who go out, the assessors, they don't want to learn all this stuff.
Right.
Like, I don't want to learn nothing new. Just like anything new.
The code officials, you mean, right?
Yes, exactly. And so they don't want to learn anything new and stuff, but they're kind of being pushed into it. But it's good for us. It's good for all of us to say there's a direct value to what you're doing, and it's not just because it feels good.
Is that going to be statewide, or is that just something local?
I think it's gonna be statewide.
Yes.
Statewide.
It should be.
So
statewide.
Nomar got a little bit of funding to
Well,
kickstart
Nomar
the whole
is our
thing.
local
but
Branch, it's a real estate board. of-
they are
if
the
you're a
strongest
realtor, you have to
branch of
like for HBA,
Louisiana
insurance,
realtors.
it's a builder.
And so as soon as they implement it, it's going to stay.
A lot of stress.
Their offices.
And they
Business
really-
software.
They got good lobbyists and stuff in the state.
I said,
They're really, really
just
good.
got the information.
Stay afloat somehow.
It just had to
Is there
roll
a talk
out.
about the new building code a little bit? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
so-
familiar,
We got a new topic.
Yeah.
just, I mean, I know this kind of touch and go too, but I mean, obviously there's a bunch of good things going on right now, but the new building code, thanks. If one, I don't know, I mean, do you know kind of, can you discuss it a little better, maybe?
I'm sorry.
Missed out.
About it.
Sorry, hold on one
Sorry, what you
second.
The new building code is coming out, we're going to 06.
Forrest is trying to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'll just say bye. But I do look forward to meeting up with you guys at the next meeting, and Tillman, you're doing a great job in bringing this together. This is something I hope you all will remember. I remember when we had the very first solar roundtable in December 2007, and I look at where the solar industry is. I can see them going much further even than they have now, but they're doing some very impressive things. You guys are in a position to do just as much. And in fact, I think in the course of time, this may already be obvious. You guys are doing much, much, much bigger than the solar industry. Home performance industry is huge. It just doesn't have the cohesion yet that you all are working to do right now. So keep it up. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for
All
your
right.
time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you, board.
All right, bye.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just kind of going over the building code standards and stuff that they're going to be, I mean, obviously they just passed this on, I think it's this week.
HB 580.
Yeah.
go ahead.
It changed the building code. They took HVAC out of the mechanical code to the residential code for it. So the major changes are, that means that every house now, every new house is going to need an annual J and an annual D, okay, right off the bat. They're also going to need a door blower test and duct blaster test. Every house. Now,
Is there a visual
Every
inspection?
new home,
every new
new
home,
construction.
but also homes with 50%
Is
or
that-
more.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
because once it's 50%, it rolls into it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've already quantified it. There were 13,400 and something new home permits in Louisiana in 2012, okay? If you want to just look at the New Orleans metro area with, and count the North Shore, you're looking at about 3,400 homes. Now, that means the rest of the state, the majority of energy auditors and energy raters are in New Orleans, okay? The rest of the state is virgin snow, okay? And every one of those houses, you can look, you know, some parishes, I'm from Morgan City originally, I mean, St. Mary Parish, 20, really?
Berwick.
Berwick. My last name's Fonder. My dad
Blackie Farmer,
was my grandfather's right.
The pops is born in the city too.
Really? Yeah.
you know Driscoll, the Driscoll family?
Uh-huh, yeah, sure.
They're moving back.
Anyway,
$20.
There's only 26 building permits in St. Mary Parish last year, so they're not building all the houses.
They are.
But on the North Shore, St. Tammany, 970. So with them putting in these new state efficiency ratings, okay, I mean the incentives. Look at we're participating. The company I'm with, we're participating in Energy Smart contractor. We're going to be participating in NOLA wise contractor as soon as we get our BPAS certification. We have everything in place. On any new house, you're looking at about between $1,500 and $2,000 worth of incentives, rebates and everything. And on the houses that we do, a lot of here in New Orleans, there are these houses they buy in areas that are distressed, and they strip them to shells. If you go in first and do the energy audit first before they do any work,
Yep.
then everything qualifies,
Yeah.
including the biggest money that I think that the contractors are missing out on, and that's the $500 tax credit, federal tax credit for having a 16 SEER or above air conditioning unit. And a lot of people are really hesitant to. A homeowner will do it, okay, but these guys, they want these, you know, turn them in, turn them out, cheapest thing. Well, you go.
Disservice.
You know what it costs at the supply house. The difference between a 16 SEER and a 13 SEER is not that much, okay?
Yeah.
In the big scheme of things.
Well, in the big scheme of things, no.
No, it's not as much as the $500 tax credit's worth. Okay, so we have a lot of our businesses are people that renovate 10 or 20 houses a year. And we have a bunch of customers like that. So all those guys, I mean, they're just really excited that we're gonna be able to offer some, just rebates on some of the things that we currently do for them. They charge them full price. So, I mean, there's a lot of work available.
Yeah, but
What are some of the negatives that face our industry with that same building code? I mean, you mentioned some of the ones that you had reservations about.
Oh, no, I was talking about the policy that just passed. So the legislation that just passed basically got us the 2009 Energy Code. However, it also stated in the same legislation that they would not have to vote again to update the Energy Code for 5 years. So we got 5 years of operating under 2009, which means that in 2018, our Energy Code is going to be 9 years old, which I think is not very good for us.
Not efficient.
The 09 standard though, it does say there's a visual inspection though, I would want to say, for air infiltration, right? The blower door isn't required.
It's true.
Yeah.
But the air guys have been fighting it. I mean, not against you guys, but I mean, the general industry is like, it's like plumbers and tankless hot water heaters. It took me like 2 years to talk to the guys and it's hot, cold, gas line, plug. Like, it's just, nobody wants to change, there's your 1% club.
But would you agree though that it's just that there hasn't been much organizing around it or education around it? Because my reaction, the education piece to me is pretty big in that the communications I've had with the air conditioning industry, with HVAC industry, with even the builders around specifically blower door, duct blaster, HERS ratings, things like that. As soon as you mention it, they just kind of blow it off. But then when they're actually in close proximity to a blower door test or duct blaster test or a HERS rating, even once they really understand what it is and that it only takes a little bit of time and that the only reason it's been so expensive is because there's not enough supply and demand. In other words, the HERS raters, like myself and like Jacob here, and like yourself, right? You're oh, you do the NAHB.
Yeah.
But there aren't very many of us who are still certified. A lot of folks who were originally certified, their certifications have lapsed, and there's not enough of a market.
Because they weren't making any money at it. So
Right.
It's like, well,
So the folks who are still around, who are doing HERS ratings, are charging a lot of money. And so what we're trying to do is increase the demand for HERS ratings so that the prices will drop.
Yeah.
And, so my only gripe about what was recently legislated is that, it's going to be, 2018 or 2019 until we get a new update on our energy code. But that was like the trade-off from what I understand.
Was it the 09 standard or the 2012 standard that passed?
Oh, nine.
Oh, no,
Was it?
yeah. It's set up on the HVA's code council in the
Right.
state.
Right.
It's like, a lot of people they don't want it to change because it's like, oh, we're gonna have to implement. They didn't want to.
09 is a safe falling talks. I mean, like I say, especially it doesn't quite get you all the way to where it doesn't require a blower door test. It basically says a visual inspection can occur if certain things have been done inside that home.
I mean, the bottom line is like this group and people like this group are always gonna be on the edge. It's like trying to push it forward. There's a whole bunch of people behind you trying to pull it back. Because they don't, they
There's
just-
more pulling back than pushing forward.
always. I mean, if you're gonna be on the front edge, the tide's always gonna be. Just resolve yourself to that
Yeah.
and keep the good fight. That's all you're gonna do,
So am I hearing that we want to continue to look at energy codes as well as the statewide energy efficiency programs? So we want to make that one of the things that we pay close attention to, and perhaps even if we're going to have committees or subcommittees, maybe this could perhaps be a committee. What other things are we interested in? Besides statewide energy efficiency programs, energy code,
I think you should keep track of what's going on with the NOMAR.
With NOMAR.
What's
NOMAR.
gonna roll out, because it's gonna, that's a good sell for this kind of stuff. And the green MLS. I think, did you sit on that committee?
Yeah, yeah. I'm still getting the emails and show up when they tell me to, but I'll tell you one thing. The policy that, the legislation that passed that we just spoke about with the energy code, notice that there wasn't a whole lot of fuss about it. Nobody brought it up, nobody said anything, and that was intentional. The folks who were kind of working behind the scenes on implementing that policy, it was mostly closed door. And I guess it's a good thing in that it got passed, but we need to change the regime a little bit. I mean, I think that if we can show that that we are organizing ourselves, I mean, let's face it, policymakers look at the home performance industry in Louisiana and they say we're too fractured, okay? The HVAC contractors don't talk to the HERS raters don't talk to the installation people don't talk to the, and so, we really need to organize ourselves just so that people will even listen to us and listen to us in a way where they respect the opinions of the few, knowing that they do represent the whole industry.
To that point, I guess you need to put membership up there as a potential subcommittee or,
Membership.
Actively advocating and trying to find new members and bring them in and get better opinions.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to bring up, I'm glad that we got the HBA Green Council in the room, because there are other organizations that are working their asses off. You can edit that out on YouTube. There are a whole bunch of organizations that are working hard to do their part in affecting policy, and we have got to continue to stay connected. I'm on the Green Council. We're members. Core USA is a member of HBA and the Green Council. I know that I've seen green bean installation in there. I know I've seen. Did you go to the HBA?
It's not recent.
Green
It was
Council?
for a while there, it was.
And so we got to continue to, look at the HBA, look at the Alliance for Affordable Energy, and there aren't very many more organizations out there I would say this about. But we need to look at them critically. NOMAR, the realtors as partners.
Yeah.
We really have to continue to look at them as partners.
And the
look-
solar alliance as well.
Oh yeah, GSRIA.
It's huge.
GSRIA has, I watched them from day one as well. And within a very short amount of time, they went from 0 to 60. Those guys are taking off and they don't take no for an answer, right? Of course, they have a bit more financial capacity than I think we do. But it's because of those tax credits which they fought really hard for, so they deserve the payoff. And I think that we have real opportunities locally, regionally, and nationally. We did not talk about the new Homes Act, but are you guys paying attention to that? Are y'all kind of watching the Homes Act at the federal level? We're talking about potentially, how many of you worked in the HERO program? No,
Good money in that.
Is this like Homestar or sort of?
Homestar-ish. It's essentially I don't know if it's shaping up to be a tax credit or a rebate now.
Well, I think there's no, what is that program? There's no money left.
There's no money left.
It's done.
No,
No, not HERO.
I'm not talking about HERO, I'm talking about Homes
Oh.
Act. So Homes Act acts a lot like HERO did.
That was a check.
Right.
It's like, man, like $2,000.
Right.
That was a nice deal.
So I don't know if the Homes Act is really going to shape up to be a rebate program at the federal level.